It's mailbag time here on Chicago Bears Now. I'm your host, as always, Harrison Graham. You can tweet me more questions at HGrahamNFL. If we don't answer them here, we'll answer them on Twitter as soon as we can. Funk Bringer, bringing the funk, $5. Appreciate that. How many smoking Jays to verify that Bears Now is your favorite show to host on the network? Obviously 4, LOL, hashtag Bear Now. I got to go 4 smoking Jays on that one. You guys bring the heat. Almost 30,000 subscribers. Obviously, I do I have a lot of duties at Chat Sports, but I have fun with you guys. So yeah, I'll give that 4 smoking Jays. Appreciate the question from Funkbringer on today's show. Sherrod Curry, would you consider trading Cohen to get a position that we desperately need, like a cornerback? I'd be open to it. Now, how valuable is a running back that's coming off an ACL injury and is making $6 million per year? I don't know. Are you going to get a starting cornerback for Tarik Cohen? I'm not optimistic that you will. So if someone out there is like, hey, we'll give you a CB2 for Tarik Cohen, sweet, I'm in, but that doesn't seem very likely to me. Marshall Yellow next up. Saw ESPN didn't have David Montgomery as a top 10 running back. Thoughts? Weird. This is the first time I've seen Marshall Yellow on the show. My initial thought is Montgomery is a top 10 running back. That's just what I believe. I think he's going to really show people this year that he is worthy of that. He finished last year incredibly strong, and people didn't notice because the Bears were in a funk during the second half of last season. But I think this year he will put people on notice. Now, ESPN's list is as follows. Shout out to the production team putting this together in like 12 seconds. Derrick Henry, number 1. Alvin Kamara, number 2. Dalvin Cook, 3. Nick Chubb, 4. Christian McCaffrey, 5. Let me be clear, no issues with the top 5. Maybe I would change up the order, but those are probably your top 5 guys right now. Saquon is certainly top 5 worthy, but he's been hurt, so he's at number 6. Zeke Elliott at 7. That's kind of when I start to go, guys, that's kind of name over production for me. He's not been elite for about 2 years now. Aaron Jones, I think, is being slighted, honestly. I think he's really good. Joe Mixon, he's been hurt. He's been on a bad team. Okay, maybe. Josh Jacobs, I think Monty had a much better year than him last year. Jacobs is good. I like him a lot. But there's a couple guys there I'd put Montgomery ahead of, so I think he's top 10. That's just my opinion. Be honest. Be objective. If there's any Cowboys fans watching, go watch some Monty tape from last year and tell me who's the better player right now. Type DM for David Montgomery or type EE for Ezekiel Elliott. I think there's a good argument that it's Monty based on what we've seen in the last 12 months. Now, maybe Zeke comes out and balls out this year. It's definitely possible. He's had a really good career, but David Montgomery's being slept on. DM, EE, let me know, who do you guys think the better running back is in the NFL? Now, today's sponsor is the News Break app, and you can download it today at chatsports.com/BearsNB. We've been partnered up with these guys for a few months, and hey, I love the News Break app. I get notifications of all kinds of wild stories in my neighborhood on a daily basis. That way I can keep up with everything going on. I know executive producer Marshall is a big Noti Gang guy when it comes to the News Break app. He's able to keep up with all the storylines in his neighborhood, local news, weather, politics, food, pop culture, crazy stories, cool stories, fun stories. Hey, get the app. Use our link below, chatsports.com/BearsNB. Cameras were on. No one's talking about this, but Tarik Cohen could be a cut candidate next offseason. Reason is missed year for injury. If he gets injured again or doesn't play good, he could get cut. I mean, I think the reason people aren't talking about that is his 3-year contract starts this year. So, yeah, he could get cut next year the way it's structured. But let's see how he plays this year. I'm hoping he has a good year and he's a factor on this offense. Joseph, do you believe Mack still holds a top 5 pass rusher? I do. I know he's been under 10 sacks the last 2 years, but the Bears have not done a good job of getting production elsewhere in terms of getting sacks. Akeem Hicks has been banged up the last couple of years. Robert Quinn did not pan out last year. Hopefully both those guys stay healthy and ball out this year. That way Khalil Mack, continues to be a beast and maybe those sack numbers go up. Tyler Turner, what's a bigger need in the 2022 draft, offensive or defensive side? Good question. The logical answer, you'd be like, oh, offense, right? Well, maybe not. If Fields pans out, if you can find a way to keep Allen Robinson long term, you've got a good running back in Montgomery. Maybe another offensive lineman could be in the works. Maybe another receiver. Maybe a tight end, but that would be later in the draft. But defensive side, maybe you need another edge rusher. Maybe you need a defensive tackle. You could use another cornerback for sure. So there's actually a decent argument that it could end up being defense. Low Vision, do you think the Bears really have a chance to win it all this year? It seems pretty unlikely. I think 2022, and I know it's like, oh, we still have this year to play. And yeah, I'm excited for this year. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch. It may not translate to a bunch of wins. I think this is like a 500 type of team. But I think 2022, if you've hit on Fields, if you either keep A-Rob or find a legitimate replacement, this O-line comes into form, I think by then, hey, I think there's opportunities to make a run, but I think this year might be a little soon. Subscribe for more Bears videos because we bring them to you every single day. We cover the latest news and rumors. We do live shows like this every single Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central Time. We're closing in on 29,000 subs. Help us get there by going to youtube.com/BearsNow or just hit that big red subscribe button. Arnon, do you think we trade up in the draft if Fields is good and get the wide receiver from Ohio State? Well, there's two of them, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Everyone says that. You can't keep trading up like you did this year. You did it twice for Fields and Jenkins, which was worth it, but you don't have a first-round pick, so it's going to be harder. It's possible if you tag and trade Allen Robinson, maybe you get a first-round pick or a second, and then you can trade up and get a guy like that. Maybe, but that's more, pipe dream at this point. Lucas praying, if Justin Fields is the guy, should the Bears turn into a pass-heavy offense or stick with a run-heavy? Look, all teams will tell you want to have at least a good level of balance. Even the Chiefs run the football quite a bit because they just want to show the defense, hey, we're willing to run the football if you drop 7 or 8 into coverage. You can't just be pass or run-heavy. Now, if Fields is the real deal, you're going to pass more than you run. Maybe you're 60-40 instead of 40-60 or 50-50 or whatever. But obviously, the teams with good quarterbacks throw more than they run. So maybe it's not pass heavy, but maybe you're leaning more on that side than the run game. Jeremy Chuggs, is that Sadie? Would you rather have Justin Fields or Justin Herbert? Who's the superior Justin? I mean, we've seen Justin Herbert play in the NFL for a season and play very well. So without seeing Fields play, you'd have to lean Herbert, but Fields has huge upside. I'm perfectly happy with Fields. I want to see how this is going to pan out. Like, am I going to trade Fields for Herbert today? If it was straight up, I'd have to consider it because I've seen Herbert. Like, he's really good. But I'm excited for Fields. Obviously, the Chargers aren't going to trade Herbert. No more crazy quarterback trade ideas. Let's just play Justin Fields and see what happens. John Dorman, will defensive tackle and edge be a need next year? I think both actually could end up being needs, especially if Eddie Goldman's not the same guy. We'll see what happens with Akeem Hicks long term. Edge, you got Khalil Mack. There's chatter. Maybe you could trade him next year. I think you need more edge help. So, yeah, I think those are two spots to keep an eye on next offseason. But speaking of this season, who will have more wins? Type CHI for the Bears, type MIN for the Minnesota Vikings. I think these two teams could compete for a playoff spot this year, kind of like they did last year. So let us know, Bears, Vikings, who will have more wins in 2021. Marcy Gasson, Fan Productions, if they don't trade Rodgers, will he refuse to play or will he play ticked off? And if he does not play, will Green Bay fine him or not? Because he does not want to make him more. He does not want to, I don't know what that does. Make him more mad. Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't think they'll fine him, honestly. But if you had to ask me, I don't see him sitting out a year at 37 years old. I think he would rather suck it up and play than not. But we'll see. I said earlier I think it's 50-50 that he plays for the Packers this year, and I'll stick to that. Vincy Olswang, do you think Anthony Miller can turn his career around? I think he can. The talent's there. We've seen him play well. It's just about consistency now. Maybe consistent quarterback play will bring out a consistent Anthony Miller. I hope so. He finished last year with a bad taste in his mouth by getting ejected in that Saints game. That was not a good look for him, especially after having an up-and-down year. Hopefully he can turn around his career this year. HW, if the Bears let A-Rob walk, who would they replace him with? That's the million-dollar question, right? Do you draft a guy? Well, don't have a first-round pick. Do you sign a guy? Well, top receivers don't become available. It's tough. I would rather just keep Allen Robinson, but obviously if you don't, you got to get someone else. You can't just go with Darnell Mooney and a bunch of guys. Like, you need another receiver at that point. Henry Forte, can the Bears be a top 15 offensive line at the end of the season? I love that Pace finally upgraded this unit. I think it's possible. If Tevin Jenkins hits, if Sam Mustipher can prove he's not just a stopgap center, well, you've upgraded at 2 spots right there. Whitehair and Daniels both healthy. That's a good guard tandem. And then, just don't be disastrous at right tackle. Jermaine Ifedi, or if he's bad, put Alex Bars in there. Or Alec Bars. Top 15's doable. I wouldn't necessarily bank on it. Give me top 20. This whole line's top 20. That's a major improvement. Ratify, last question, unless we get a super chat. If Dalton goes off, will Justin Fields be used the next season, or will they continue with Dalton? I mean, the only way Justin Fields is still the backup by 2022 is if Dalton is like a fringe MVP candidate. And he, I think 2013 or 14, he had a really good year in Cincinnati, and he had some good years there, but his peak Bengals years were like 7 years ago. So for that to happen, that would be quite the turnaround for Andy Dalton, so I am not anticipating that.